This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benerofe, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. And me, Peter Katz, formerly with NBC, ABC News, and stations from Boston to Los Angeles. White Plains Week, what's happening, who are the newsmakers, what's in store for the future. The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. White Plains, Westchester, and the world, and all you headline stoppers out there. Here's Jim Benerofe with the headlines.
And now the headlines for the week of August 24th, 2018. All the president's men, one by one, start to sing. Westchester County sales tax receipts continue money momentum. 6.5% growth rate gives County Executive Latimer budget wiggle room. White Plains sales tax receipts beat county pace for first time in months. County economy and White Plains economy looking good with the big fall to come. Public Service Commission will not have report on utility performance in the Great Westchester disconnect until November. Westchester Institute for Human Development introduces $376,000 new mobile dental van that comes to the disabled. Sees mobility the future of healthcare. White Plains Public Schools enrollment for 2018-19 year tops 7,200.
Thank you, Jim. And now we go to the Rollo Newsreel. White Plains Week, video newsreel, March of Time, August 24th, and we have headlines of the week. This is a classic New York Times photo of yesterday's paper, and this is another headline. What do you think of that, folks? And it sort of reminds me of some headlines from the past that appeared in Times, like this one, back in the Watergate era, and a few months later, this one, bringing back an intriguing deja vu situation here, Peter. And I think that's what everybody was talking about this week, was the Manafort saga playing out?
Well, it's not quite deja vu, John.
Not yet, anyway.
There's a lot more deja before there'll be any
vu. Vu, absolutely. You know, that was written, folks.
But what's really the takeaway here is that President Trump is a criminal, and he directed a criminal conspiracy to affect the outcome of the election in which he was elected president, according to the allocution given under oath by Trump's former personal lawyer and business associate, Michael Cohen, when Cohen pleaded guilty in federal court in Manhattan this week. Cohen admitted guilt to 8 felony counts and identified Trump as the person who issued the orders and handled the financing of the crimes. Trump, who demands unquestioned loyalty from everyone around him, had spent a decade relying on Cohen and publicly praising him. Cohen's office was right next to Trump's in Trump Tower in Manhattan. It became clear months ago that Trump, who never returns the loyalty he expects from others, was throwing Cohen under the bus in the hopes of making him take the blame for not only the criminal conspiracy to which Cohen entered the guilty plea, but to also what is anticipated will prove to be numerous other criminal acts during the campaign and before it in running the Trump organization. Now, it used to be that Trump called Cohen smart, trustworthy, and a great lawyer. Now Trump says, if you need a lawyer, don't hire Michael Cohen, which you can't do anyway, because he's a convicted felon now and he's disbarred. Cohen's guilty plea came as part of a 1-2 punch on Tuesday within minutes of the jury in the first trial of Trump's campaign manager, Paul Manafort, finding Manafort guilty on 8 felony counts. The jury verdict form reveals that the jury voted 11-1 to convict him on the other 10 counts he was tried on. There was one woman who held out because she didn't like Manafort's partner in crime, Rick Gates, who had flipped and was a prosecution witness. She didn't think Gates could be believed. The prosecution has a month to decide whether to try Manafort again on the counts in which the woman blocked the jury from returning unanimous guilty verdicts. But Manafort's next trial begins in Washington next month, so they won't have time for an immediate retrial. The White House has worked behind the scenes with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to kill the Secure Elections Act. This bipartisan bill would have created a major effort to protect the election process in this country from the kind of Russian hacking which helped steal the last presidential election for Trump. President Trump has been trying in every way possible to deflect from the criminal convictions of his close associates. After Cohen's guilty plea and Manafort's convictions came in, Trump went to Charleston, West Virginia for a campaign rally. While the rest of the media world was giving wall-to-wall coverage to the stunning news that the President of the United States was named as a criminal in federal court documents, Fox News, also known in the news business as Trump TV, was giving wall-to-wall coverage to the Trump campaign rally, and then giving in-depth treatment to every other possible story from around the world that allowed them to avoid giving the court actions here at home the coverage they deserved.
Selective news.
On Capitol Hill, the reaction to the news from the Republicans was nothing more than a deafening silence. At the White House, Trump himself was expressing sympathy for Manafort, with no sympathy at all for any of the American taxpayers for whom Manafort stole when he filed false federal tax returns and failed to pay taxes on tens of millions of dollars in income. New York State has filed suit against the Trump Foundation for fraud. This exposes Trump and his family members to potential criminal liability. I saw, when looking at the documents, that Eric Trump signed the financial return submitted to New York and IRS, and Donald Trump and his family members were among the directors of the foundation. And you know, they said that they only devoted half an hour a week to the business of the foundation. The foundation was closed last year when it became evident that New York State was investigating. But closing down does not prevent you from being liable when you commit a crime. About 500 children who were kidnapped at the direction of the Trump administration at the border still have not been reunited with their parents. Steven Tyler of the musical group Aerosmith had his lawyers send the Trump people a cease and desist letter to try to get Trump to stop using his songs at Trump campaign rallies. Tyler says Trump does not have his permission to use his performances, and he doesn't endorse Trump, which playing the songs implies. Artists Adele, the Rolling Stones, and Neil Young also have objected to Trump using their music at his rallies. Congratulations to U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions. I'll bet you never thought you'd hear me say something like that.
I know, he's looking good.
Sessions has taken a stand against Trump's attacks on the Justice Department and says, quote, "While I am Attorney General, the actions of the Department of Justice will not be improperly influenced by political considerations."
Boom. That is really a great statement.
One of the big questions being asked in Washington is how long will Jeff Sessions be Attorney General? David Pecker, head of American Media, which owns the pro-Trump supermarket tabloid, The National Enquirer, AMI is the name of the company. Well, he's been given immunity from prosecution in the Trump investigations, according to reports. Now, that means he is cooperating with investigators to tell what he knows about what went on during the campaign and maybe even before. And we learn, according to reports, that the Enquirer, right, the supermarket tabloid, has a safe in the office in which they kept the bad stories about Trump, which Pecker was helping suppress.
Why don't they raid that office?
They may. Well, they don't have to
They
now that
don't-
he's
yeah,
cooperating.
Right. Open that safe.
The Manhattan District Attorney reportedly is ready to file criminal charges against the Trump Organization and senior company officials, according to reports.
Well, Peter, thank
Had
you.
enough?
Thank you for that very in-depth and erudite report on the week's doings. One of your best Trump segments. Thank you.
But one of the worst.
One of the worst.
One of the
for
worst
him, right, God.
items. I
One
mean,
of it's hateful what this man is doing to the country. It's hateful.
I'll tell you.
Terrible.
You really have to wonder why the Trump supporters refuse to acknowledge the truth.
Well, the truth isn't truth, Peter. You know
According to Rudolph
Yeah,
Giuliani,
that's right.
truth isn't truth. Now,
Right, everybody's entitled to their own
Can
truth.
you imagine
Right.
a lawyer for the President of the United States
Yeah.
going on television and saying, truth isn't truth?
that. Yeah. Well,
Truth
he
is
did.
truth.
He did. You see, that was an intriguing job by the Meet the Press interviewer. Because he couldn't keep a straight face. He was laughing at him.
Yeah.
You know, but
Chuck Todd
Yeah.
is not someone who laughs at
Yeah.
people lightly. But it's almost as if Rudolph Giuliani has completely lost it. I mean, here was the
he
man.
got rattled and he said something.
Here was a
stupid.
man who commanded great respect. He
Yeah.
was honored.
Yeah.
Even, New Yorkers who despised Republicans had nothing but praise for Rudolph Giuliani after his handling of the attack, right?
Yes. Well,
And
that was
look,
a different
look
Rudy
what
Giuliani.
Rudolph Giuliani has become.
A different
Incredible.
person. And people do change over the years depending on their self-interest, unfortunately. What was
So-
the attitude in Washington, Jim? And you were down there this week in a historic week.
Well, the most interesting thing I thought was that we were in 4 or 5 separate taxis, and there was not any taxi driver who was in favor of Trump, and Congress was not in session, so there weren't any celebrities around, so to speak. Everybody was at home.
Okay.
The other thing that I noticed in Washington, which is not necessarily anything to do with politics, the volume of vagrancy is pretty bad. There are a lot of vagrants.
Now, was that in the White House or
A lot
elsewhere?
of ex-Trump staffers out there looking with cups, right?
No, there were people sleeping on the sidewalk near Union Station. It was just
Sobering.
all over the place. It was very noticeable.
Sobering. Well,
And what year is this? Oh yeah, it's 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are still homeless people in this country.
yeah, well, there's
In a country with as much wealth as this country has, we still have people sleeping on the streets in the
Yeah.
nation's capital.
and it
Not far
appears-
from Capitol Hill and the White House.
Right. Well, the past is prologue, my friends. Now, down local, Westchester County sales tax receipts are ringing the bells, or the cash register, as if you have one. That money momentum continues. Look at this, $19 million sales tax surplus over last year's take at this time. After 7 months, $312 million over $232 million from last year, 6.5% growth for the year. If that keeps up, folks, we are on target for a $34 million surplus, which could cover the $32 million deficit the county says it has. Now, of course, this is dependent on how it comes, but it also allows the county executive to decide whether to just pocket that $34 million surplus into the fund balance or use some of it to cover up the deficit
Well, if they've
instead
got
of
all-
just rolling out a tax interest.
If they've got all of that money coming in, then it certainly relieves the pressure to do a deal to sell off the Westchester County Airport, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly does, but it doesn't.
Or maybe even Playland, doesn't it?
Well, that's another question. I asked what the attendance was at Playland for the summer, and I haven't gotten an answer back yet. And
My own guess would be that it's got to be slightly off. Just the weekend
it was
weather
very
has
wet
been
in
horrible.
July,
I mean,
but the weather has been better.
in
but
August,
that's a
no.
big
I
thing.
mean, it's rain. I mean, Playland, does. It's not just the weekends at Playland during the summer. They do decent business during the week, or they're supposed to do decent business during the week. You have all kinds of camp trips there. You have individuals, who bring the kids over there.
We shall
when they're
soon
off from
know,
school.
and there's been no confirmation that he's met with Nick Singer on Playland yet. He should have done that by now.
Nick's you have
He
to
is the guy,
explain who Nick
Standard
Singer is.
Amusements guy who was going to take over Playland, and they should have met with him by now, or at least to see what the land lies.
Well, I think John Nona, the county attorney, had been having some talks with them, or they seemed way back. They seemed to be having some cordial contacts.
Yes. Well, let's hope they have some movement on that soon. The White Plains sales tax is doing well, my friends. It beat the county pace for the first time in months. The July figure, the first month of the city's fiscal year, $4.1 million. This is good news. It's up in July. Usually we're down in July, and it's the second straight month we are up.
Well, you have to wonder, could it be that the decreases, the sharp decreases that we saw, are responsible, really, are caused by reporting errors or late reporting or something like that.
As it has always been said to me on these figures, the third month is when they wrap it all up for the quarter. This is the first month of the quarter, but still it being up is better than it being down. And it matches the county pace, which we've complained about, that why isn't White Plains matching the county pace?
Now, of course, we have to
many
wonder,
times.
will there be an impact in the coming months because of the closing of Walmart? Walmart actually, they shut down the store, I think, a day ahead of the announced closing date.
Can't get out of town fast enough.
The place had been picked clean. They reduced everything by 75%, 75% off on everything, and apparently it was like vultures went into that store and just picked it apart.
Well, that's the
Do we know
advantage of
what
it
their
going out of
sales
business.
tax was?
I don't have a precise figure, on that particular contribution. But you would think it was substantial. I mean, that store did
Well,
pretty
this
good
has always
business.
been one of Eileen Earle's, the former budget director who was consulting on the White Plains budget, complaint that the sales tax office does not reveal receipts.
Breakdown.
By
Where
breakdowns
does it
of
come from?
where's it come, cars, restaurants, retail. I mean, and that is a real glaring deficit in the sales tax reporting. Now, remember this hullabaloo at the county center?
What hullabaloo?
That was when County Executive George Latimer had a huge rally of everybody in creation that was a representative for the county and people who had suffered from the disconnect last spring, in which Westchester was out for a couple of weeks in a number of places. Well, there was a lot.
Because of the
electrical
power
outage.
problem after
How
the storms,
quickly we forget.
Yeah.
And in fact,
Actually, I do remember that. I was there covering that, and I remember the gathering.
well,
I also remember the lighting was very,
remember
very
the
bad.
public.
Yeah.
Remember the Public
faces
Service Commission.
Faces did not photograph well.
No, well, we
It was
wanted to
almost-
keep it
It
anonymous.
was almost as if they hadn't paid the Con Edison bill.
Well, getting to the point.
That's a joke.
Getting to the point. The Public Service Commission is doing a report on Con Ed's performance, and they told the Assembly's Committee on Commissions et al., according to David Buckle, our Assemblyman, that report on Con Ed performance and NYSEG's performance isn't going to be out until November.
Okay, well,
And
that's
then
well into
you may
hurricane
be-
season. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yes,
reasonable.
they may have
right?
more to work with.
Yeah.
And the intriguing thing to me,
You want to try to have some answers after the next hurricane season,
and the next
right?
election.
Yeah, right.
Yes, exactly. Very helpful. And the other thing that is that even when they make a decision on culpability, they don't set the fine right away. And
I don't know.
to my way of thinking, that is a lazy commission. It has got to improve. They've got to do a better job. They couldn't have asked for more reporting this past spring, and for them to delay it so long is ridiculous.
Jim, should we start taking around a petition, Bailey, for the Public Service Commission?
Right.
Well, they should have been on the carpet before now up there. They really needed to do that. Now, some good news came up this morning. We interviewed two members of the SEIU 32BJ union, which had a dispute with
This is the
business
Building Workers
downtown.
Union. They represent superintendents, maintenance workers at buildings in Westchester, this particular local does. Residential, condominiums, co-ops, what have you, rental buildings. They also have representation of the workers at commercial office buildings and retail places like the Galleria. And now on the residential side, there are about 1,400 union members who work in residential buildings in Westchester. Their contract is up at the end of September. They are already in negotiations with the Building and Realty Institute of Westchester. And the first meeting went well, we are told. Second meeting is coming up. They are very hopeful that they'll be able to reach terms on a new contract without having a strike. In the past, there had been.
And they also announced the news that they have come to a settlement with the downtown commercial building that had fired 7 of their members. However, that has been settled after the court, they took them to court, and they're rehiring the 7, and their wages are going to be gradually moved up to what they formerly were. So another piece of good news on that front.
It's always good when there's labor, peace, and cooperation and a good outcome.
Right. And up at the Westchester Institute for Mental Health, they introduced a new van, and here is the CEO of Westchester Institute for Human Development, and Susan Fox. Take it away.
Our new mobile dental clinic will give us the ability to serve more individuals, provide more consistent and reliable scheduling of visits, and better meet the very complex dental care needs of this population. This mobile clinic is a critical resource for individuals with developmental disabilities throughout the Hudson Valley region who have significant barriers to proper and regular dental care. These barriers can include fear of dental procedures, lack of transportation, and lack of access to providers who are skilled in working with individuals with disabilities. Our ability to bring services directly to individuals in the community makes a huge difference. The mobile clinic regularly visits community-based service agencies throughout the Hudson Valley region, providing the same full range of dental services offered in our on-site clinic. Not only will this new vehicle improve the consistency of our service delivery, the state-of-the-art equipment this new vehicle has installed will enhance the quality of care we will be able to provide. We provide more than 1,700 visits to 1,000 individuals in our mobile dental clinic each year. In addition, our facility-based clinic here at WIHD provides 6,800 visits a year to almost 2,300 individuals. We all know how important oral health is to our overall health. This clinic is a critical component in assuring that individuals with disabilities in the Hudson Valley region receive high-quality, consistent, and comprehensive dental care.
It's really an outstanding day to be here in front of this beautiful mobile unit. Isn't it wonderful? Doesn't it look good? You know, the children and adults are really going to love it because you're going to love the fact that it looks so good. And again, having had a van that I understand you used for 12 years with a useful life of only 5, And now understand that van is going to Haiti. It's being rehabbed, so it will continue to be used to help provide dental services. You know, we take medical service and dental service for granted. You know, we can go there. But when you've got individuals with disabilities, they cannot necessarily get to the services they need. So being able to have those services brought to them is really, really important. And that's what this new high-tech facility will do. Bring the dental services to people. And remember, dental and oral hygiene, as has been said, is so important to your overall health. Because if your teeth are bad or other things are bad with your mouth, it can affect your whole body and including leading to death. My high school classmate died because she didn't get some dental services. So I know it from an up close and personal standpoint.
Sometimes healthcare services are best provided where people live. Sometimes they have serious health issues or mobility issues that make it very difficult for them to get into healthcare clinics to see the doctor or get other kinds of health services. That's a lot of the people that we see. A lot of the people that we see really have difficulty getting to us. Sometimes they're aging, they can't get around as well, they've been in hospital and they need to recover at home for a period of time. So we're looking to be in the forefront of taking services to people with disabilities where they live whenever it's appropriate. And we've put an application in to get the equivalent of a mobile dental van. We now want a mobile health clinic with support for telehealth services so that we can take primary care services to the person and also give them access to all of the specialty care services that we provide as well. And so that's heart problems.
So the mobile health clinic van would do what?
it would take our services out into the community to where people live, to their own homes, or if they're in group care settings, into group care settings, or if they're going to day programs, to the day program, so that they can get programs and services that really fit what they need to be able to do where they want to do it. So we're really feeling that the future will see a lot more of what we do going out into the community rather than always having people come to the clinics here at WIHD.
How far off is this?
Well, we're looking at maybe the end of next year as one possible time frame. If the funding comes through, we'll put an application into the state.
Funding from the state?
The funding from the state, they have funding every year that they put into innovation in healthcare delivery. We've put a request in for this mobile clinic van, and if it comes through, maybe this time next year.
So here we are, walking into the mobile van, the brand new van, and we're greeted with the lab and sterilization facilities right here, right up front, and over to our right as we go into an examination room up by the cab. And here we are. Very spacious and very nicely air conditioned, I might add. There are the dentist's tools, the drills, and various other accoutrements. And now we go back into the main portion of the van. There is the automatic lift for the disabled persons. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
And here we are, another media op here. Thank you very much. Sorry to intrude. And that is a second examination room. And there you have it. That is our van. John Bailey on location is what I should have said. But anyway, John Bailey, Peter Katz, Jim Benerofe. Good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week. News and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.